The following is a legal advertisement. This does not constitute individual legal advice and should not be construed as such. This podcast is for informational and educational purposes only.
Hi, I'm Gwendolyn Sterk of Gwendolyn J. Sterk and the Family Law Group, and I'm here today with Margo McDermed, the representative from the 37th Legislative District, who happens to be the district where our office is located. And today we're going to talk about some really revolutionary legislation that Margo was key in getting adopted in Illinois. So Margo, tell us about the underlying concern over the rape kit evidence, where that started.
Well, we've had some particularly egregious examples in Illinois of rape kits not being tested and or being lost. And it's like being victimized twice when a rape victim doesn't have really the opportunity to get the justice process started because the evidence is lost or mishandled.
Right, so that just makes it worse for the person. And how is it that you tried to identify, or how did this come about for you?
Someone contacted my office, and again, there's a national movement to try to make sure that the rape kits are tracked and that every state has a robust process to make sure that victims, first responders, medical professionals are all part of the process of getting these kits properly filled in and tested and delivered to the justice process.
Well, I'm really intrigued, and I want to stop right there. It's somebody at the grassroots level really contacting you to make a difference, ultimately.
That's correct.
And so we as people sometimes think as voters that we really don't have an impact, but we do, because we can contact our representative who can then take action.
Exactly.
And that's how this evolved, right?
Most of the bills that I bring every year are as a result of constituents contacting me with good ideas.
That's fantastic. So then what was the step, and what were your objectives in trying to deal with the issue?
The original bill was intended to make sure that the Illinois State Police create and maintain a system where the victim, the first responders, the medical professionals, the prosecutors, the defense attorneys, and the alleged perpetrator all have access to this evidence.
Sure, they all need it.
And what ultimately happened was that we decided to create, instead of dictating how that was going to happen, we're going to create a task force so that everyone can come to the table and let's discuss how it's going to happen, instead of the legislature dictating to, say, hospitals or medical professionals how they're going to do this, or to prosecutors how they're going to do this. Let's bring them to the table and we'll all decide together how we're going to do this. And that's what happened, and I think it's a great idea.
Absolutely, because everybody might have different ideas about how to preserve the evidence. The chain of evidence is, I'm assuming all that is critical to preserving.
And we have to make it a system that works for everyone. It doesn't do any good to create a system that hospitals or other medical professionals their processes aren't consistent with it.
So then how were you instrumental in getting all those different entities together?
Well, what's going to happen is I was instrumental in getting the bill, getting it filed, getting many, many co-sponsors, men and women, Democrats, Republicans, House and Senate on the bill. We got it passed, and now the next thing that has to happen is we have to create the commission. So we have to get people from the House and Senate, people from the state police, from the medical professionals, prosecutors, victims advocates, all at the table to agree on the system. And I think that the Illinois State Police have some good ideas. I mean, it really is their responsibility. It's their lab. And they have some ideas about how they want that to happen, and they're going to foster a discussion, make sure everyone's on board. Michigan has done the exact same thing, and so Illinois wanted to follow Michigan's example. We'll be the second state to do this. So this will be great. It's cutting edge stuff that no one's really doing.
So, and that would include all the scientific data as well, I'm assuming.
That's right. So there'll be, the test data and then access to it. And we hope that even the victims will be able to somehow access this data in a confidential way. So, they don't have to rely on the police or the prosecutors to be, holding this evidence that is so personal and important to them, that they would be able to access the status of their testing themselves.
Sure, and what part of the healing? I mean, that for the victim, that's got to be very therapeutic in a sense that they have somewhat the access that they need to be able to see what is really there or not.
To take back control.
Absolutely. Part of it is a big issue on control. So after this commission is formed, and obviously now where the next step is to get that commission together, then once they talk and come up with a system in place, what happens next?
Then we'll implement it.
Okay. And that will be another bill? Is that the understanding?
I don't believe that we would need another bill. I think it's the Illinois State Police has the authority to do this.
Understand.
And we have given them, not this year, but the prior year, more money for more testing facilities and more testers, more staff. And this will be part of the rollout of that.
And how does this work? I mean, obviously, there's a criminal side to the victims. There's also sometimes they're obtaining an Illinois civil order protection or other type of civil remedies. Will there be access for the victim for all those various forums, or is this primarily in the criminal arena?
We've been thinking about it in the criminal arena, but I don't think there's any reason why they wouldn't be able to access it otherwise.
Right, which is why I would think that the victim having that access would be an interesting thing for the other cases or other areas where they might involve or feel like it's important. Well, that's critical because I think that, do you find that this, the sexual assaults are on the rise? Is this a problem that we need to deal with, or is this just another way of dealing and assisting with the victims to help it all come together?
I don't know whether it's on the rise or not, but I believe that society as a whole is putting more emphasis on protecting the victims and enhancing their access to the system, which I think has been not a priority of the law enforcement community as perhaps in all cases, because we've had some cases where they just put these things in a closet.
Right.
Or where there was a backlog with the state police, and law enforcement is committed to making sure that we stop that.
That's wonderful, because then if there is that access and if there's something missing, coming together can also help in that process, I'm sure, as well. So that's a great change, because I think that people often feel embarrassed. Let's just think about it. If you're the victim, you have all of the grief that you're going through in and of itself. So coming together and feeling that the state is going to assist you with the evidence, the collection, the maintaining of the records, it just gives you a little more level of empowerment. And that's important.
And a little bit of checks and balances that someone else, that there's more than one person looking out for the process.
Right.
You have more than one point of access.
Right. And I think that gives you, again, that freedom or that ability to get to that healing point. Win or lose, it's still available for you. And that's not to take away the rights of the person that's being prosecuted either. It's just to preserve the evidence, whatever the evidence is, it is. Fair?
And we see so many instances now of where new DNA testing techniques have actually acquitted people or exonerated people.
Right. So having it and having true and accurate and using that new scientific
and timely.
Data. Right. Big factors there. So what a great bill to move forward. And do you find that these commissions are giving the freedom, for example, to the state police to assemble a commission is a good way to be more inclusive in terms of the process, to get a good result when creating laws?
Right. That was the whole point of this, is to be inclusive and to make sure that everyone that's concerned with the timely processing and accuracy of these kits is at the table.
Right, because I think that sometimes has been overlooked. We can't all be experts at everything, but if we can come to the table and have a good conversation about it, especially something as important as this, it gets to a good legislative process. So as far as that is completely done and already enacted and moving forward, correct?
Right. Next, I'm going to be making sure that everybody makes their appointments to this commission and then we get going.
Absolutely. So what an accomplishment today, and overall knowing that this preservation of evidence so that we get to the truth on these cases is key. So thanks very much.
The proceeding was a legal advertisement from Gwendolyn J. Sterk and the Family Law Group.